Focus, determination, passion, stamina, and the will to win. The end result, the Ricmotech Sports Car Series. Motorsports brings you the Ricmotech Sports Car Series, brought to you by Ricmotech, high-performance sim racing equipment, and by Proforma, Elite Texas Graphics, live Mondays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern.
Beginning season 15 of the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sports Car Series is live here on Apex Racing TV. Welcome back to a championship with two classes of cars, the Ford Mustangs and the Mazda MX-5s. Have shuffled around throughout the off-season. We have new faces in both classes, and we'll give you a rundown of that as soon as qualifying is over for today's event. Jonathan Simon in the commentary booth here, Tyler Maxon alongside me. We are at Laguna Seca for round one of a 9-round season, which ends on the 9th of December for 90 minutes around the Daytona road course. For other rounds we visit throughout this campaign, the beautiful Mount Panorama circuit for round 4. How about Sonoma in round 6? Very similar to Laguna Seca itself as we travel here for round 1. We also head over to Italy for Imola in round 8, and of course Zandvoort. So plenty of international races to go with that. And as well, we head over to Brands Hatch for round 7, of course, in the UK. So we travel around the world to iRacing's best laser scan tracks virtually. Tyler Maxon, you are stood alongside me. We are your commentary team for the season. You are also on production. And Laguna Seca, again, like I said, very similar to Sonoma, two Californian tracks. And I was discussing this with Randy Cheneth during the week, but in the winter times is a lot more green than you're currently seeing.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot more green. Really, even Sonoma is as well. It's usually a pretty green place, but iRacing does have all the sand and the dirt, which adds some very interesting little dynamic to the track, especially for the driver driving it just through here, through the famous corkscrew section. You go off there, you're into the dirt, and you're picking up a 1X, which is very crucial for that because you can get a bit of bonus points if you do have 6 incident points or less. So it's very important for these drivers, especially if they're going for that overall championship, to get every bonus point that they can in order to win the championship in the end. So this is going to be an amazing first round at a very difficult circuit.
Take a quick look at our track guide. The drivers are currently in qualifying, which is presented by Proforma Elite Texas Graphics, but your track guide today presented by the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sports Car Series.
Welcome, viewers, to Monterey, California and Mazda Raceway, Laguna Seca. Great to have you with us today. We'll be doing the track guide for you here in the Ford Mustang FR500. This track, deep in history, built in 1957 at a cost of $1.5 million. It has seen its changes over the years, but this 2.2-mile, 11-turn course with 180 feet of elevation changes is one that is deep and rich in motorsports history. Sports car drivers all over the world love to come here to Laguna Seca, and you will see why here in just a moment. This track has hosted races from Can-Am to Trans Am Series, American Le Mans, Pirelli World Challenge, Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge. If it's sports car racing, it has been here. Coming out of turn 11, the final corner, we head out onto the front straight, running up through the gears here. Drivers are going to want to get a lot of speed down here. This is the fastest portion of the course and one of the best overtaking opportunities. Coming around turn 1, down the hill, there's that first elevation change, down into the gears, down into second. For turn 2, Andretti hairpin, double left-hander. Drivers are going to want to hug that bottom to get a good launch and speed up to the next 2 sections. 2 double rights now coming into turn 3. Drivers will roll the center here, slowly get back to throttle, tight radius corner on exit, swing out wide for turn 4, same here, roll that center, get that throttle down to the second fastest portion on the course, the straightaway that takes you to turn 5. Overtaking opportunities can be done here as well on entry of 5. Drivers are going to want to get a good launch through apex to head up the hill to turn 6. One of the most blind corners on the track, very touch and go. Touch the brake, lift, roll down into center, get those wheels down at the bottom of the apex to head up Rahal straight. This takes you up to turns 7 and 8 as we approach this slight right-hander is 7. Coming into turn 8, the famous corkscrew. Drivers will be down in second gear, rolling over this blind corner, down through the dip, back up through the gears into Rainy Curve. Turn 9 here at Laguna Seca. Wide apex turn, a lot of speed coming down the hill through these elevation changes once again into turn 10. Drop that throttle coming out. Want to get a good launch into turn 11, the slowest corner on the track. You will see overtaking opportunities here. Drivers are going to hug that bottom, try to get that speed up off the corner to race to the front stretch and down to the finish line. There's your lap at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Thank you for watching.
Welcome back to Season 15, round number 1 here for the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sports Car Series. That was our track guide today. We hope you enjoyed it. And now we head over. Qualifying has reached its final stages. Now you can see at the top of the screen, Tyler, we have our classes of cars. So if anybody who's new to the series, welcome along, of course. And your pro class, so we have 2 classes of cars, GS and ST. GS, you'll notice, are all the Mustangs. ST are your MX-5s. Pro is your higher talent in each class, and Open is for your developing talent. So unless you have anything to add to that, I'm pretty sure I just covered everything, and then I've decided to hand it over to you.
Yeah, I don't think that you missed anything on that. Yeah, so pretty much the GS cars are the faster Mustangs, which we will see coming through to lap the ST cars a little bit later on in this race. And then the open cars, just like you said, are for the developing drivers, and where your pros are really, really quick. That's what we see the likes of Aeronam, Robert Hartley, Mike Dam, John Allen, DJ Alessandrini in their respective classes, racing in those different pro and open categories. So that should be awesome to see those guys go to battle. And the open guys still are battling with the pros for the overall win, but usually it is a pro who will win the race, unless we have some sort of difference in the race for some reason. But I can't even think of any time an open car has won the race overall. So usually it is the pros that win the races. So as we just wait on qualifying to finish, right now, provisionally in your GS class, well, officially really in your GS class, Aeronam is on the pole with Kevin Ford in second. And then in your ST cars, it's Robert Hartley with DJ Alessandrini. So Hartley making a quick jump over to the MX-5, and he is on the pole as the grid is up on your screen now.
And that's something we need to discuss. So Aeronam, we'll discuss that in a second. Aeronam is on pole position for round number 1, our multiple season champion kicking off season 15 in style. Kevin Ford looks like he'll be his closest challenger this year, along with Tyler Shiflett. Those are the 2 drivers who will need to take the challenge on to Aeronam himself. Then you can see the rest of the order on screen. And I see some new names, of course. Lauri Koskinen from Finland racing here in the series, which is nice to see. Another international driver joining the fray. And plenty of other names down the order. Here we switch to our MX5 order. There's Robert Hartley, who will lead from pole position in our rolling start. Now, what's to discuss here, Tyler, is the fact that Robert Hartley and Mike Dam have made the switch from the Mustang to the MX5 for this season. And the unfortunate thing is, those were two of Aeronom's closest challengers, now in a different class of car.
Yeah, and exactly as you said, they were his biggest challengers last season. Those were the people who were challenging him week in and week out for that championship and for the top spot on the podium. They have made the switch into the MX5, which really, this MX5 field is looking to be one of the best it's ever been. The GS field has shrunk slightly. We're down to 13 cars for this season, but the MX5 field is absolutely ginormous. This should be some incredible racing all the way through the field, and I cannot wait to get this underway because now you're going to add in Hartley and Dam into the mix that have already been an amazing MX5 race. Then you're going to add them in. This is just going to be an absolutely incredible season.
I think it's also time to discuss strategy as our formation lap is about to kick off here from Laguna Seca. So, strategy today, we're expecting the pit window to open for both classes of cars around 30 minutes into the 60-minute event. Now remember, it is a single pit stop race, so Tyler, I'm pretty sure, and what we've seen the time in season 14, and there haven't been much changes to either of these cars, you will see drivers probably take 2 tires, both classes of cars.
Yeah, I believe you are correct. I believe that we'll see 2 tires being taken or no tires being taken between the 2 classes of cars. So I think at most we're going to see 2. I don't think anyone's ever taken 4. So I think we're either going to see none or 2 tires being taken. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if most drivers opt for the 2 tires, being that it is pretty high tire wear here at this Laguna Seca circuit. There's a lot of fast sweeping corners, which can be absolutely destroying on tires. So you've really got to be really good at your tire management here if you really want to be able to last this full race length. And we have a long race ahead of us tonight. This should be an absolutely incredible race.
Happy birthday to Bobby Childs in our MX5 class for D2D Esports. He's turning 12 years old today. No, I'm just joking, Bobby. But he's I think Travis Schwenke had better banter than me. He said he's turning 88, just like his car number.
Now, we cannot confirm or deny that, but that is quite funny. And it's good to see the drivers having a bit of banter between themselves, especially in these fun classes. This is an amazing series, and the drivers do seem to get along very well on and off the track. So it's good to see a bit of banter before the race, and especially before a 60-minute race here tonight. This should be absolutely wonderful to see.
And if you want to take part in the action, visit iRacing.com or visit the Extreme Motorsports website, and you can join one of the most well-run series in iRacing itself. Our Mustangs are ready to go here. They have one more corner to go before that pace car takes the tightest entry into the pit lane in history. We saw some controversy in the Porsche Esports Super Cup here during the week. Will we see it heading down into turn 1? We go green for season 15.
Kevin Ford, actually, with an amazing start. He doesn't come across to block, though, Aeronom. Aeronom will have the lead down into turn number 1, but Ford is going to try it around the outside. He's not going to be able to make anything of it, though. And I think that's now going to allow Aeronom. No, Ford still hangs around the outside. Ford up into the lead.
Evan Ford with vital track position at a track that could be very difficult to overtake at. Aeronom shuffles himself into second. Let's have a look as we go green for your ST class here. And the MX5s are trundling away into the first corner. Only separated by a matter of inches are most of your field. Into turn 1 goes Robert Hartley to lead the field.
Hartley leads the field. Dam is going to actually slot him into second. Look at Allison Drini round the outside. And he will slot himself up into second now. John Allen also trying to make him a move on Elvis Rankin. And he will do so as well. So the field really spreading out here and really dicing it up here on lap number 1.
Yeah, oh, and look, from race control, you can see at the bottom of the screen, the start is under review. So I'm not sure if I saw many incidents or whether that's just regular protocol from race control, but nevertheless, they're going to look at a few battles and charges through your order, but it's nice to see the MX-5s form up. And then one of the most difficult corners in motorsports, turn 6 here on the run down to the corkscrew for the first time as we ride on board with John Allen.
So on board with John Allen here on the helmet cam. As we look down into the corkscrew, you can see loose on the entry, they get the car turned in and let it flow through the exit. That is an exciting section and that we will see the drivers take a lot tonight.
And currently in fourth here for the Defined Auto Works team, and that number 22 MX-5. They will end the first lap. Have a look at the lead, for your Mustangs. Here it is on screen. Ford versus Nom. We've been waiting for this battle for weeks on end since the conclusion of last year. It looks like Kevin Ford will maintain the lead for just a few more corners.
It looks to me like Kevin Ford, he has had an amazing offseason. Has really upped his game here. Heading into season 15, he wants to challenge Aero Nom. He knows, as he actually runs a little bit wide, and that's going to allow Nom down the inside now. But like I was saying, though, he wants to take the fight to Nom. He knows that Hartley and Dam are out of the championship fight. He knows that he is the one. He is going to be the primary target to take down Aero Nom. If anyone can this season, I think it's going to be Kevin Ford.
And he tries to force Kevin Ford offline for the corkscrew. 5.5-story drop there. Just under 100 meters at Laguna Seca. And Ford looks like he's going to have to concede the lead. So at the end of this lap, butchers this final corner. He should lead his first lap of his campaign. Now, look at Tyler Shiflett here, who's very close behind. Doesn't look like he's got the best of exits in the final corner at Laguna Seca. But Ford here, look at the gap at the top left-hand side of the screen, creeping down to even 1/10 here. Send a lunge, Kevin.
He thinks better of that one, but as you saw there, the race control message, start is been reviewed, and it is nothing to come to that one, as Alessandrini has a long time off the circuit, and look at that! Alessandrini up in the lead, John Allen up in a second, and Robert Hartley's going to get pushed all the way down to 4th place, just like that. The field switches up here at the front of your MX-5s.
What's happened to Robert Hartley in that Excite racing car? We'll have a look at the battle that will continue down into turn 1 here in the opening stages. Here's John Allen for the lead. Oh, we got a replay nevertheless. Oh, there seemed to be a bit of contact. Oh, that looked like, actually, Tyler, that it happened probably towards the exit of the corkscrew, potentially. But these drivers are still battling here as they go through the middle stages of the lap.
And I think that it was Robert Hartley with a slowdown from the corkscrew, and then Alessandrini tried to send it round the outside as John Allen actually now takes the lead. So this is just nonstop action in your MX-5s. But I think it was Hartley getting a slowdown there from the corkscrew and then having to slow that car down to serve the slowdown penalty. So you didn't get a DQ or a penalty. And I think that is what caused all of that little issues there for the drivers. But nonetheless, the field is starting to spread out a little bit. Hartley is actually starting to get dropped off the front of this group as the front 3 really start to push away.
DJ Alessandrini can be in a Mazda MX-5. And you're somebody, Tyler, who races the Mazda MX-5 in our real world, and of course, virtual world, of course, here on iRacing. And it's a car that, have you ever actually driven this car in Laguna Seca?
I've never driven at Laguna Seca, actually. This is one track that I have never driven at, and probably won't get the opportunity to drive at for a minute, as I think that is Elvis Rankinoff. He had a little bit of an excursion there at the exit. No, but I've never driven this place in real life, but it looks like an absolutely ton of fun to drive, and I cannot wait for the time that I get to drive it.
Sorry, back to your lead for the MX-5s. Alessandrini now into P1 as he makes his way past John Allen. This looks like a carbon copy of last lap round. Boy, that's Hartley slingshotting into the apex of turns 1 and 2. And the Andretti hairpin. Here we ride on ball from a brilliant camera shot with Robert Hartley in that Excite racing car. You could say he should be your favorite to win this championship in the MX-5, but he hasn't kicked off his season here in the opening 6 minutes in style.
No, but it's not the first 6 minutes that win you the race. It's not even the first 59. It is that last lap last corner as you cross the finish line. That is what wins you races. When you do that, you could be as bad at the first part of the race as you want to be. As long as you cross the line up in the lead, you've started off your championship well. And he still has a long time to do that. He's still got 54 minutes to get himself up 3 places and up into the lead. And he's also got 1 pit stop in between that as well. So that should be an insane race. We see that all the time here in the Ricmotech Sports Car Series, how it can really throw some wrenches into people's races and can really change up the whole dynamic of the race as the race goes on. So this should be an absolutely awesome thing to see as we go on for the first pit stop of the season coming up, probably at about the 35-minute mark, I believe.
Somebody's already in the pit lane already, and that's Mitchell Peak there in the MX-5, who's damage he's had in the opening laps, but someone during that strategy period has to throw the cat amongst the pigeons and from the norm, basically, because especially in your Mustangs, because at the moment Aeronom's gonna run away with win, but possibly the title. Here's a replay, Tyler.
So I'm not too sure here what happened to Mitchell Peak, but this is why he's in the pit lane with a pretty damaged engine. Loses it. So easy to do, and off and into the tire barrier. So unfortunate to end his first race of the season. I think this is the first race ever with the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Series. So unfortunate end to his race here for the start before it really even got going. So super unfortunate end to that, but we should hopefully see him back for round number 2 in much stronger style.
And this is the corner where he went off. This is one of the most difficult corners in, well, definitely the most difficult corner at Laguna Seca. I don't care what you say about the corkscrew coming up. I think it's, I mean, I don't know. I reckon they're equally as difficult. You know, the corkscrew is very blind, the 5.5-story drop, but that left-hander there is so tight. I don't actually blame Mitchell Peak for losing it. You know, it's so easy to do.
No, it really is. I mean, I've done so many laps here, though, on the sim, and it's the #1 place that I wreck besides the corkscrew. I think that I've got about even number of wrecks in that left-hander and in the corkscrew, so it's a very easy place to lose it. Really, I don't think that he did anything wrong there. I think he just kind of dropped the wheel, and once you drop a wheel, you're pretty much done. So a small little mistake like that can cost you so much, and really, you've got to be flirting with the edge of that curb there. If you even to get as much time as you need, because really, even if you don't do that, you just run it almost to the curb, then you're going to lose 2/10 by the time you get up to the corkscrew, especially in a car like the MX-5, where it's all about momentum and how much speed you can carry through the middle of the corner.
Important what you're saying, and of course, the draft along with the momentum is important, and I feel like that's what's keeping I've linked together. Like, you're basically, it's like Alessandrini is towing Allen, Dam, Hartley, and List behind.
And that's exactly what is happening. That is why these drivers always stick so close together, is because when they go like these, the draft is so strong. You can get the draft from a second back of these MX-5s and start to gain on someone. So when you've got a draft that strong, and whenever you get into a line like this, there's really no separating you unless someone has a big moment, and they have to have a pretty big moment, because if they can even just recover it and only lose half a second, then they're still within the draft range of you, even at 4/10 back. So that's something that's so difficult to be the leader in these cars, and it's also very nice to know that if you do make a slight mistake and you're back in second, then you're pretty much an easy draft right back up to the leader again.
Thrilling sight it was as the drivers exited the corkscrew yet another time. This is a lonely sight for Aeronom. I think he's got Kevin Ford. He's keeping close, at least within a couple of seconds here in the opening 10 minutes. So this race isn't as dominant for Aeronom, and it's not over yet. You know, we've seen some ridiculous things like we saw at Mid-Ohio, wasn't it, last year? Robert Hartley on the final lap. Final corner didn't end up winning the race. We were so surprised when Aeronom crossed the line and won.
Yeah, we were actually really, at the time, we were covering the ST cars thinking, oh, you know, Hartley's got it. And then next thing we know, we're looking at a replay of Hartley losing it in the second to last corner, which is easy to do. And it's one of those things you're pushing all the way to the end, and you make a slight mistake like that, and no matter what lap it is, iRacing doesn't care, and people don't care either. doesn't seem to me that you've crossed the line in the lead. So, that is it's so unfortunate to see whenever it does happen to someone. But the iRacing gods and the racing gods don't seem to care whether you've led the entire race. They're worried about when you cross the finish line, and a slight mistake like that can easily cost you a race.
And this is Travis Schwenke up on screen. Schwenke is a driver who puts the NIS in the MX-5, so currently not in a position that's really respective of his talent in this ST class. He's racing in our pro division for this season. He's right behind Elvis Rankin, sitting in that number 54 ahead. And Elvis has about 4 seconds to Jim List in that lead group. There you can see the lead group just in shot. And then we have our peloton behind. Lead group, this is DJ Alessandrini, but he's going to maintain that lead ahead of John Allen. And I miss this series. It's already close. It's already been some good racing here to start, and the racing standards have been amazing as the drivers are on 2 wheels here through the first sector.
Yeah, this is my absolute favorite series to commentate. This is one of the things that I've always said to the Apex boys, is that I will absolutely never drop this series unless someone makes me, because I just love this, especially with this ST racing and how close it can get. And we've got some amazing races as well in the GS cars, so I cannot wait until we get another one of those. But right now, it's a little bit spread out, so we will check in on that as much as we can. But really, the battle is in this ST class. This is just some amazing battling. We see this every single round in the ST class. You can get into any one of the broadcasts that we've done on the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sports Car Series, and you will find battling in every corner of the racetrack. There is always some sort of battle going on that we can cover. So it's just absolutely awesome. I love this series so much.
To the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sports Car Series. Welcome along as we see Laurie Koskinen here and Jez Coleman battle it out. This is for the 8th position. I was saying before, whether you're watching on YouTube, Twitch, anywhere else on our associated platforms, feel free to comment who you think is going to win this race in either class, whether it's Ford, I'm not even going to name the drivers in MX-5. There's so many who've got a shot here, as Travis Schwenke is alongside Elvis Rankin here to make his way up into the top 6. He does exactly that. So with season 14, I hope to see more of you hanging out here in season 15.
Yeah, Travis Schwenke's usually one of the drivers who's up front and really, really quick, but as of in the end of last season, I guess he had some sort of issues. Pace difference, because he seemed to never be quite up at the front like he used to be, and I think that that's also just due to the standard of driver has really gone up here in the Ricmotech Sports Car Series. As Alessandrini starts to pull away from John Allen here, he's now up to an 0.8 of a second lead.
Brilliant stuff from DJ. Here we ride on board with him. This is this blind drop into one of the thrilling corners in motorsport history. The corkscrew at Laguna Seca. WeatherTech Seca. Of course, it used to also be known as Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca in the past. Laguna Seca, I'm forgetting?
No, I believe it is, it used to be, like you said, Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Then WeatherTech came in and purchased the track, and it's now become WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. So that is the difference in names there. But I know it definitely confused me at first, until I really started doing some research, just to make sure I wasn't thinking of a different track. But no, this is the exact same track with just a little bit of a name change. As Matthew Hendy is now into the pit lane, he's the first of your pitters right today.
This is Matthew Hendy in your MX-5s, deciding to pit as Tyler just called. It's a very early stop for him. He'll have 45 minutes for his second stint. Now, if he takes tires, to undercut drivers ahead, you know? So I guess he might just be able to take no tires and just decide to make this pit stop early, but I don't know where that advantage will come from. He's going to lose the draft from everybody ahead.
And I think, though, that you guys are also taking fact that these are only 60-minute races. Drivers do 60-minute races in these MX-5s quite often. especially if you're a hardcore MX-5 fan. So a lot of these drivers will be used to running these 60-minute long races. Now, the 90 minutes, you really need to take tires. That's when the tires really start to get worn off. But in these 60-minute races where you only have to make a pit stop really for the fuel, I don't even think it's really necessary to take tires. I don't think that it would cost you that much of a pace difference to enough, at least, to take tires and be able to make that gap back up. So if he doesn't take tires, he could really be looking at a nice undercut, being that he would be out of the battles and in fresh air. He wouldn't have the advantage of that draft, but he definitely would be having some good pace out on his own as Mike Dam looks for a move and almost completes it. They're still side by side with John Allen.
Hartley's yet to revitalize his race after making that early error through the corkscrew. He had pole position in this class. Oh, and he's got a bit tail happy through of the Andretti hairpin. Here we right on board with him through turn 3. Let's have a listen for a few corners. Did you see what he did there, Tyler? He just backed off through the apex of 6 just to get a bit more of a visual for the apex of the corner. The only issue I can see for Robert Hartley now is I feel like he's the quickest out of at least Mike Dam and John Allen ahead. He just can't make his way past. Otherwise, he's going to let this man run away.
I would have to agree with you, and I think that that's what he was doing there. He was trying to get a nice look at the apex and not miss his corner and lose himself even more time. But I think he was also, as John Allen slows down, he has a slowdown too, I think, for the corkscrew. Has the corkscrew bit again on another driver. I didn't even see him go off there. But all I know is that he definitely did have some sort of a slowdown because Robert Hartley is now through, and he's now chasing down Mike Dam. So if Hartley can get up to Dam, then I think that he really has a shot at catching DJ Alessandrini. But I do think that it would be a very tall order to do it if he did stay behind him. So he's really got to make quick work on Mike Dam to be able to catch up to Alessandrini.
Exactly it. But Robert Hartley now into third. That's exactly what he wanted. Oh, he goes to the sand. Into the gravel, I should say. Well, a bit of both. Not like the Bahrain International Circuit, where sand. So when you drive off the racetrack, it's essentially almost like tarmac. At Laguna Seca, you drive off here into the yellow parts. You're going to lose time.
Sand.
As we see Mike Dam, well, life's a beach for him. Stand there.
Oh, his Dam runs wide. And that allows Hartley through. Dam wide, Hartley through. As soon as we jump to a camera shot with Mike Dam, he runs off the circuit. So I think that I've just broadcasters cursed Mike Dam. I didn't even know that was possible, but I seem to just do it. So
I might be clutching at straws here, but to vilify the drivers behind, or not to overpraise Robert Hartley, but the pressure from him was packed on Dam and John Allen behind, and he's forced them into mistakes.
And that's something that you really can do. I mean, they know that Hartley's an incredible competitor for them. He's been so quick in whatever car he drives. I mean, he has 9,000 I rating. So he's definitely a quick driver. And just knowing that you've got a driver of that caliber behind you, and a driver that is that quick and really can add a lot of pressure to you, and just being there a lot of times can force drivers into mistakes. And as you can see, he's actually catching up to DJ Alessandrini. So like I said, Hartley is the driver that's got a chance to catch him, and right now he is doing so. He's down to 1.4 seconds.
Robert Hartley, DJ Alessandrini's going to have an immense amount of pressure here. Hartley butchers turn 6, and you can see on the relative times on the left-hand side of the screen, he's lost about 2.5 tenths through that one corner alone. Here's Steve Daniel. on screen. Schmuck, the bottom left-hand side of the screen. It's good to see somebody else other than Kevin Ford have a photo there.
I would definitely agree with that. And for those of you who have never seen Kevin Ford's photo, there is Kevin Ford's photo, which I think is one of the best driver photos that I've ever seen on any broadcast. So I absolutely love this photo. But yeah, it's great to see another driver other than Kevin Ford have a photo up for us to see here on the broadcast, and for the viewers to kind of know who's behind the steering wheel and who is out there racing tonight. So great to see Steve Daniel utilizing that feature of the software.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, get involved with everything, and it's awesome. I mean, the team here at Apex Racing TV have done a brilliant job with race control and being able to display race control messages live here on the broadcast, which is a first that we've seen in the past few weeks. Problem is, and this is a good problem, there've hardly been any incidents to investigate, so we've hardly had to use the feature, apart from the race marshal sort of saying, okay, let's investigate lap 1 just to test this feature out. There haven't been any incidents apart from that, so it's been some good racing standards this evening.
Yeah, it's been absolutely amazing. I mean, I actually had the race director do more test messages than we've so far had come through on actual messages. So, like you said, it's definitely a good thing to see that the standards really are that high for the series. As let's actually jump back, though, to your lead here for your MX-5s, as it's now down to 1.3 seconds. Hartley is closing on Alessandrini.
3 seconds, as Tyler said, and it's going to creep down more and more. The pit window opens about half an hour into this race. Now, we do expect some drivers to enter around that 25-minute mark, of course, as well. So don't expect them all to enter at the same time, but we're not afraid of pit parties.
No, and we've seen it a lot of times before, as David Payton's the first of your normal pit strategy, I should say, to come into pit. We've already seen one driver come into pit, and I believe that was Matthew Hendy, who is back out on the track. But David Payton's the first of your normal pit stops to come into play here this evening. So as we wait on the rest of the drivers to make their pit stops, we're only 23 minutes into this 1 hour and semi-endurance. I like to call these semi-endurance races. But Hartley now is actually down to 9/10 of a second, so he's really closing in on Alessandrini here.
It's getting closer and closer. It's etching closer and closer as Hartley is trying to find a way here back into the first position. It's been 20 minutes since he's seen number 1 to his car. And that's a lap car getting in the way. Oh, that was air raising into the braking zone. And can Hartley just keep composed here? He does. Oh, that could have ended in heartbreak.
Yeah, and he only loses about 0.2 of a second because of it, which he's actually already caught right back up. So not costing him too much time then, but definitely not what he would have liked. He would have probably liked that lap car just to get out of the way just a little bit more. As Mike Dam into the pit lane, he dives into the pits. He's the first out of your top 5 to bite the bullet and come in. How will this play out for him? You need to keep an eye on where Mike Dam is in comparison to your leaders.
That is very interesting. Will the clear air help Mike Dam? Well, maybe he takes fresh rubber. I'd love to see him in the pits. The order. Mike Dam can really work as if he at least takes 2 tires and is able to undercut the drivers ahead of him. But so far, this is a long pit stop. Fuel for the moment. I don't think he took any tires. It didn't look like it from when we switched tires
there. And he just took fuel.
Leaders into the pit lane. Aero Nom, Kevin Ford, Jeff Jacobs, and of course Russ Ruddock behind for Flying Tortoise Motorsports. And they are all in the pits here, ready to service their cars. How about Derek Holland, of course, joining the pit party? Here's Aero Nom on screen, first out and away.
And I did see Kevin Ford take tires there, so Kevin Ford at least has 2 right side tires here on his car tonight. And he will slide out a decent way behind Aero Nom here as they exit the pit lane. But you can see on the track map up on your screen right now, that is the difference in your leaders. And the driver who came into the pits first, and that was in the form of Mike Dam. So we'll see how he plays out with the rest of the drivers. We can keep an eye on the track map here, and we'll pull that back up for you when these drivers come into the pit lane, so we can keep an eye on where he's going to come out. But right now, Hartley started to maintain his gap now. He's not gaining as much as he used to on Alessandrini. So Alessandrini up in the pace here, and he's starting to pull away again.
Brilliant stuff from Alessandrini, handling all this pressure from Robert Hartley quite well. But Hartley there through the apex of the Andretti hairpin gains about a 1/10 of a second. He's just carrying that extra bit of minimum speed. The rest of the first sector is Robert Hartley trying to reel in Alessandrini up ahead. How about John Allen and Jim List behind? They've dropped off the order. He's trying to join this fight, but there's not going to be a safety car to help Travis Schwenke, so his chances are going to be tough. Look at Steve Daniel very close to Clint Vigas in that second position.
He really is close there in the second position. Only about 5 seconds back from Tyler Shiflett, so he's really not too far off of him in all fairness, as they're starting to get to the back of some of your lead or your back end of your MX5 field. So your leaders in the GS cars. Keep in mind, Tyler Shiflett, Clint Vigas, Steve Daniel, Laurie Colsian, and Jess Coleman have not come into the pit lane yet. So Aeronam is your net race leader. Kevin Ford is second, and then Lucas Ford, who has not pit, is currently in 8th place, and then it will be Jeff Jacobs, your third placeman, once everyone cycles through. He actually has a little bit of damage on the front right-hand side of that Mustang, so I wonder if that's hurting his pace just a little bit. Let's jump back to your leaders here as John Allen's into the pit lane.
How will this work out for him? Race here for round 1 of the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sports Car Series is just coming through the final sector for the moment. Mike Dam is through turn 10. And here's the final corner, turn 11. Don't cut it. Don't run too wide there. He might have picked up an off track just by a touch. Allen's already exited the pit lane. You can see John Allen in the cockpit view. He's going to be through the pit lane now. Mike Dam is not even close, but it's such a tight pit exit, you never know.
You really do never know what's going to happen with these two, and it will be John Allen who will be out in the lead by a long shot here. So he is really far out in the lead here. Let's see, though. I am going to try and pull up a new thing that I haven't tested yet, and it has worked out perfectly. So here is the difference between DJ Alessandrini and Robert Hartley for sector times here so far on this lap. So this is how the sectors are stacking up in time comparison. This is a wonderful little graphic that we have.
The difference here over the 4 sectors at Laguna Seca versus Hartley for the lead. It looks like Hartley, I can't even tell whether or not Hartley's gained over this lap. He's certainly gained through that final sector as Robert Hartley. 0.2 of a second. It was very even through the first stages of the lap. So whether or not the traffic got in the way of Alessandrini is another question to be asked.
I think that he really did get held up by that traffic, but look at Hartley. Whether he got held up in traffic or not, Hartley is right there, and he is about ready to pounce here. So Robert Hartley with a chance at the race lead. He wants to lead this race before we go into pit stops. These guys also have to keep in mind, though, that Mike Dam and John Allen have already pitted. They're quite a ways back from them. They're just now heading across the start-finish line, but they still are in a contention for the race lead unless these two really have some issues. So these guys really have to push on and not do too much fighting, because it may honestly cost them the race lead.
Vegas has entered the pit lane from the lead in, of course, your GS class, as it's officially known. Vegas will rejoin outside the top 5. Here we still watch our leaders in the MX-5s. They've got to enter the pits shortly. You could say, I do the opposite, right? To DJ Alessandrini. Should have entered the pit lane, I guess, there. No, but I'll tell you what, he doesn't want to lose that draft, which always helps.
Yeah, it really does always help. So I think that Hartley and DJ Alessandrini are going to come in at about the same time. I think that they're going to try, if Hartley can, come in on the same lap as Alessandrini so that these two can continue to draft and not lose to each other too much time, because I think that both of them know they're very experienced MX-5 drivers. So they should both know that being in a 2-car pack is a whole lot faster than a 1-car pack. So I think that these two are really going to try and do the same strategy to each other and really not try and split up each other. Just as John Allen and Mike Dam, they split up, and look at the difference in gaps now. Those two were right on each other's bumpers when they decided to come into pit at different times, and we see how that's worked out for them. So right now, not the greatest strategy for them as Steve Daniel dives into the pit lane, so Aeronam will take back over the lead and back into his race lead, with Kevin Ford will slot back up in the second, and Tyler Shiflett should slot back up in the third. So right now, Aeronam with a commanding lead, 4.8 seconds.
Exactly right. Shiflett, there he is, finally cycles into third. Have a look at Robert Hartley. He is your 5th road driver in iRacing. Out of your top 25, he has the most starts. He loves sim racing, and he loves being on the service. So let's have a look if he enters the pit lane this time around. No. Another time. And along with that, Tyler, top 25 in iRacing on the roadside, 1,600 starts for Robert Hartley. Has a 9,494 I rating and has only completed 200 starts on the service, I should say. 200 races to get a 9K I rating. I don't know what's more impressive. Max Verstappen doing starts, I think he's already on like a 6K I rating, or Martin Kroenke's 9.4K in 200 starts.
Now, I'm not too sure what's more impressive. They're both really impressive in and of themselves, considering that that's an insane amount of I rating to have for as little starts as they have had. And I'm actually quite surprised that Martin Kroenke's only had 200 starts. He's
a perfectionist. Like, if you look at Gregor Hutu's only got 235 starts. The guy's been on iRacing for a decade. And I know this because I'm the same as those guys, obviously. I'm not going to compare myself to those two. As we see Hartley here creeping closer and closer to Alessandrini through the corkscrew. But really, I don't like racing too much. I like to test, let's say, for 2 weeks and then do one big race. So I wouldn't mind doing like 10 races a year or 20 races a year max. And that's what you get from this top talent. And even I did that when I was racing in the World Championship back in 2014, 2015. I think I did no races. I thought that was Alessandrini making a mistake, but it's a lap car. Too many races in both those years. I think I only did one race apart from my World Championship commitments. This is not on iRacing, of course. This is on another simulator.
Yeah, and I'm honestly kind of the same way. I'll practice for 6, 7, 8 hours and do one race the entire week and then immediately go on to practicing the next. And I think that that's part of the reason why I don't have as probably as high of I rating as I should. Is because I do so much preparation and I don't hardly do any races. So, just sitting at 2,000 I rating and, maybe get up 100 every single time I do a race. But I'll only do one a week, so it doesn't really make much difference. So, yeah, I'm kind of the same exact way as those guys are. They're such perfectionists, and they just want to be able to get out there and have absolutely incredible pace and have insane pace when they get out there and be able to fight at the front and 4 wins. So that is, I think, why they have such low number of starts. And just like you said with Martin Kroenke, he's been on the service for so long, and Gregor Hutu as well. And he's won how many World Championships now? And he's only at 200 starts. That's quite impressive.
Yeah. And very impressive by the hands down the greatest sim racer of all time. He's such a good guy to speak to as well off the track. I did a podcast with him a couple of years, I think a year ago, and he's exactly as Dom Doohan and everybody from Team Redline say he is. He is just an awesome personality to have, and that's why a lot of his teammates go on to have success as well. They have talent. the likes of Dom, who was one of the top sim racers a couple of decades back. Same with Gregor Hutus, who's basically the Tom Brady of sim racing. Just sustained success for such a long time. Here's Hartley looking for the lead yet another time. Oh, speed there through the Andretti hairpin. Away. By the way, while we're discussing that, Eric Violet, Travis Schwenke, and George Fike actually making their first pit stops for the season. And as well, I've been keeping an eye on the gaps in for the top 5. Nom still leads ahead of Ford, as you can see at the top left-hand side of the screen. But look at the battle for third here, Tyler, between Shiflett, Jeff Jacobs, and Clint Vigas.
Yes, it's actually coming into quite a good battle right here. It's 1.2 seconds back to Jacobs, and then Vigas is a further 1 second behind him. So it's actually going to be a quite good battle here if Jacobs can close up to Shiflett here in the next few laps, or if Vigas can close up to Jacobs. So this should be an amazing battle whenever these three get close together, if they do. And yeah, this should be absolutely amazing. Well, here's Rush Ruddock as well on Jess Coleman. So Jess Coleman trying to make the move. He's only at 0.3 of a second back. He's really, really close here as they head down into turn number 1. Will he send it down the inside, or will he be patient? He will be patient. So the open driver will be patient with the pro. I believe that's how they're doing it here with the 2 different number plates.
Exactly. So if you're new to the series, welcome. We're watching the battle for the lead in your MX-5s. You can understand which class of car is which on the left-hand side of the screen as Jim Liss enters the pit lane for the first time. They're identified in blue. MX-5s are in green. Any light-colored number is your open class. Any darker-colored number is your pro class. Your pro class cars are faster. Your Mustangs are faster. I hope I didn't confuse you, and I hope that was clearly explained. You get clean racing, good racing, close racing in all classes of cars, and we get thrilling racing as we watch Hartley etch closer and closer for the lead. That's the closest he's been all race to DJ Alessandrini.
Alessandrini, he's one of the quickest in the league, and he's holding off a driver who we know historically has been incredibly fast, and he's proving that again today here. He is one of the best iRacers in the world, and he right now is on the back of DJ Alessandrini. Alessandrini, an amazing job to hold him off as they head through the corkscrew. He's still not making any mistakes. He's not even fazed by Robert Hartley behind him.
Series is that we run the same weather that is currently taking place at Laguna Seca. It's currently about 6:30 p.m. in sim time as Alessandrini enters the pit lane. Sunset will be about an hour from now in the sim, but the race will conclude by then. So we're expecting the track to get cooler, these tires to last longer. But how will this early pit stop for Alessandrini shape his race?
And keep an eye here. This is the gap. That right there, the track map, shows where John Allen and Mike Dam are on the racetrack. So John Allen just exiting the corkscrew now into the left-hander. And let's see where Alessandrini goes. He puts up the right side tires, and he is still in the box here. Is he going to lose what would be the net race lead to John Allen and Mike Dam? No, he won't. He'll already get rolling even before they go into the last corner. Alessandrini should have this race, easily have the race lead when everything is all set and done.
And Tyler, no pit limiter in these cars, correct? So Alessandrini's got to be careful on the exit that he doesn't get too excited.
Yeah, you definitely have to be careful. On iRacing, there is no pit limiter. We do have the luxury of using that in the real world, but on iRacing, they do not give you that same option to be able to use the pit limiter. So you really do have to be careful to not speed. It's so easy to as well whenever you're trying to gain that little bit of an advantage. But right now, Alessandrini really didn't need too much of one. He's got a 3-second lead over John Allen.
And look at the bottom of the screen from race control. Incident limit violation for the likes of Elvis Rankin here in your MX-5 class. You can see at the bottom left-hand side of the screen, he's in 10th overall, 3rd in your open class for your MX-5s. As Hartley enters the pit lane, we'll keep an eye on the lead battle. Look at the track map there. Number 2 is DJ Alessandrini. He's got half a lap to go here to reclaim the lead. Let's see if he can do it. So whilst we watch him here through the final few corners, over the likes on Robert Hartley in the number 1. That number 1 has not begun to move. For Alessandrini, will he go out ahead here of Robert Hartley? Oh, it's going to be so close on the exit. I'm looking forward to this. Hartley's out and screaming away here. They're probably going to be alongside each other through the exit of the Andretti hairpin.
Yeah, you do have to keep in mind, Hartley doesn't have to exit onto the front straightaway. He does get to use this little cut through as he almost loses it there. Hartley looking for every bit of an advantage, but Alessandrini will take the lead again in the number 91, and Hartley will slot just back in as they were. He is right on his rear bumper again.
And you have to assume there that Hartley would know whether or not Alessandrini's taken tires, because he'd be able to calculate the gap, wouldn't he, through his relative times?
Well, and you also got to keep in mind, though, the reason that they have, the reason that they've got so long on the pit stop is not because of the tires. It's also because of the fuel. So he really wouldn't know whether he took tires or not, because the fuel takes actually longer than it does take to take 2 tires. So you do have to keep that in mind. So he's still guessing, unless he has a spotter, knowing that he did take tires, then I don't think Hartley knows.
As I said, the only way you'd be able to know is if you did your homework before the race, because let's say a pit stop without tires was like the driver should be 30 seconds back. If he notices, as Jacob Beasley enters the pit lane for the first time this season, if he notices that Alessandrini was 37 seconds back, he'd say, oh, you must have had that extra 7 seconds taking 2 tires.
Well, you do have a point.
Am I correct there, or am I overthinking it? I think I'm correct, and I'm overthinking it.
I think that is actually a very good analyzation of that. I think that
Don't
was
throw me under the bus.
I think it was correct, but it was a bit overthought. But hey, I give you props for thinking of all that, because even I got lost at what you just said. But
used to do it. I remember when I was in the World Championship, I would like write down everything on a clipboard near me and like pin it up, handwritten, all my fuel strategy, how much fuel I needed with 15 laps to go, 12 laps to go, 9 laps to go, just so I'd always like not have to calculate it myself. I remember like 10 years ago when I first got into sim racing, I'd like drive one-handed on straights with my phone calculating fuel for the final stint. Not that I condone sim racing and driving on your phone, which is very illegal in the real world, of course.
yes, do not do that in the real world. That will cause many, many issues for you. But no, I can totally relate to that, especially before I had all these fancy fuel calculators and everything like that. That's really what you would have to do. You'd have to start pulling out your phone and doing your own calculations to figure out how much fuel you needed, especially in the endurance races, and how many laps you'd be able to get done. But now, as Robert Hartley, wow, he just got sideways a little bit there. Covers it nicely, though. But now, with all the fancy new technology that's come out, with all these different companies developing fuel calculators and where little projectives that'll show you where you'll come out of the pit lane, now all that stuff has kind of been put to the dust, and it's now just about racing. And then really the fuel calculator and all the other fancy software can do the rest of the work for you, which is really, really nice to see for someone in like the World Championship Series or something like that. But it's so cool. It's so fascinating on how much sim racing has come along in just a very short period of time.
And if you're wondering why Elvis Rankin received that black flag for incident limits, there's a 17x limit for 60-minute races. Of course, it's 20x for 90-minute races, which is going to take place at a few other rounds this campaign. We have round 4 will be our first 90-minute race, and then later on for our season finale at Daytona will be the second and last 90-minute event for the season. But as we see Hartley here etch closer, has exceeded that and has received a penalty for it, and drivers can receive penalty points as well for exceeding the limit, which is all important for the championship. As we see Hartley now have a little peek here into the corkscrew.
Hartley's trying to let Alessandrini know. He's trying to get in the head of DJ Alessandrini to possibly force him into a mistake, and that's one of the things that a pro driver and someone who really knows what they're doing and is so experienced like Robert Hartley is, that those little tiny things can really make a difference. And I'm sure that you could even commentate on this as well with your experience in the World Championships, that peak overtaking is what I like to call it at least, can really make a great difference when you're trying to battle someone, especially if you can even just make them miss the apex by a foot or so. Then you've just got underneath them, and now you're able to go side by side with them and hopefully take the lead.
You got to pull it off right, though. You don't want to peak unnecessarily and then line, and of course you lose time more than you're actually gaining by flying. But I don't know if it would work on Alessandrini. You know, I tried a couple of times. He's a very mentally strong driver. I did an F3 official race before the car on the new tire model, which is very, very weird to drive, has to say the least. The new tire model is awesome in iRacing, but for some reason on the open wheelers it's just not working as well. So iRacing is going to hopefully do their best to get that fixed. But an F3 race there at Watkins Glen, and I had one race where I only got past the driver in the lead on the final lap. The other race was the driver ahead of me was making mistakes for every corner for about 6 laps straight. And I just said, I didn't even need to try to pass this guy. I'm just going to drive cleanly and just wait until he beats himself. I don't really need to beat him, if that makes sense. And then he ended up going off the racetrack and ended up winning that race too. So sometimes you just know if the driver ahead is taking erratic lines, sliding the way Alessandrini is just through there, through the right-hander of turn 10. They're pushing a little bit too hard.
Yeah, and that's one thing that, you know, a lot of drivers can really sense, especially if you got a lot of experience, that when the driver is doing that, there really is no sense in trying to pass them and even risking setting one down the inside and then just chopping your nose off. It's better just to kind of let themselves make the mistakes and then their tires be burned off too much and then just be able to cleanly get by them and quite easily get by them. So just like you said, it's, you know, it's really one of those things you just kind of have to have some incredible situational awareness, really, to be able to tell when the driver ahead of you is struggling and you know that you're going to be able to get by him come the end of the race, being there is only 12 minutes to go. Alessandrini doesn't have much time to hang on, but 12 minutes, and whenever you're in the lead, can feel like an absolutely eternity.
It's felt like an eternity since Robert Hartley's been in this scrap. Pit stop phase didn't work out for him. A quicker driver, he just can't manage to make his way past Alessandrini, so that's where track position is ever so important. So what would you do at a circuit like this, Tyler? You know, you're an MX-5 driver. Take at Laguna Seca here, because of course the corkscrew is very difficult. It pretty much has to be done at turn 1 almost.
It really does. I mean, I've done a couple of TCR races here, and I've pretty much tried overtakes in every corner possible. And the only corner that I could seem to get by someone was either turn 1 or the last corner, because that was really the only place that you can really get your nose in there, and once you're down the inside, there's really nothing that they can do. So really, turn 1 is the best place to make the overtake because it is a double left-hander, so it's really difficult to hold it around the outside for 2 corners. And even if they do, you can kind of just give them a little nudge off the circuit, and there's really nothing that they can do at that point. As Hartley dives down the inside, there he goes. He isn't able to make it work. Alessandrini outbrakes him nicely.
Is mentally strong. This is like a driver coaching session right now. For any kids watching TVs or anything, this is racing or defending the lead at its finest. Brilliant front-running experience for DJ Alessandrini, who is no stranger to the first position. Is hounding him. He's all over the rear end of that number 91 MX-5 here. Who will take the win here for round 1? Will it be these two? Will they collide? Will it be John Allen behind? How about Mike Dam in his first race in the MX-5s for season 15? He was racing the Mustang last year along with Hartley. The story is laid out for us in these final 10 minutes. It could be anyone here to claim the top step of the podium and 35 points to their name.
It really, really could. Just let's go to a quick commercial break here before we get into the final few minutes of this race to go ahead and thank the wonderful sponsors of the Ricmotech Sports Car Series. We'll be back in just a moment.
the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sports Car Series. This is your battle for the lead as Alessandrini and Hartley are alongside each other here, separated by a car's width heading into the corkscrew. We hope you've been enjoying the action. Who will take the lead here? They've been alongside each other for half a lap. It's been that insane. We will provide replays shortly of this scrap once it's all over. But it looks like Robert Hartley has finally etched his way into the lead 50 minutes after losing that position.
So Hartley, 50 minutes later, that is a long time to be down in second, third, or fourth place. But he's back up into the lead in the minutes that count. This is the final few minutes of the race, and this is the time that it really, really counts. But where is your overall leader? He's already ahead of these two, so they're not going to really have to worry about overall really fast GS traffic ahead of them. So these two are really going to be left to scrap it out, as Hartley already having to defend from Alessandrini. Let's ride on board with them.
This brilliant cockpit cam. This is almost what Alessandrini will see, depending on his own personal field of view levels and anything else. Widen his lines through every corner. It looks like Hartley there's got a bit hot through the next right-hander, then through the left-hander of 5 coming up. Lots of camber to aid the drivers here. You want to throw the car into the apex. It's going to stick because of the angle of the camber. Alessandrini will concede that lead advantage as he gets slower and slower, corner by corner. Hartley, though, with a bit of an error. Alessandrini a bit too hot. Oh, these two are almost carbon copy of each other.
Yeah, Hartley makes a mistake. Alessandrini makes a mistake. It's almost if Alessandrini is driving off Robert Hartley, which is not a bad thing if the driver ahead of you isn't making mistakes. But the second the driver ahead of you makes mistakes and you both go flying into the corner and miss it, then that becomes a bit of an embarrassing thing. So, you know, you've really got to almost drive your own race, as I would like to call it, and really not too much focus on what the others are doing. But right now, Alessandrini, he's got to focus on what Robert Hartley's doing because he is starting to pull away from Alessandrini. So right now, they are really, really struggling here, it looks like, for pace. And I think both of them are struggling because look at who we have here. John Allen, who was a long way back from this battle, is now at 1.2 seconds behind DJ Alessandrini.
Good here. He's looking racy, and that car's coming to him in these remaining stages of round 1 here from Laguna Seca. That's a very slow Mustang ahead of them. Not quite sure who that is. I can't quite see the car number. Here we ride on board from the chopper. Tyler Shiflett. Yeah, he shouldn't be that slow. Tyler Shiflett's dropped about 20 seconds here throughout the race. I was expecting a quicker race from Tyler Shiflett. I'd love to speak to him after the event and find out where all that pace has gone, but he might have potentially had a slowdown from what it looked like. I might be wrong, though.
Yeah, there's definitely some options there, but I don't think he wants to get in the middle of this battle. I think he knows that this is a very hard-fought battle for these guys. And really, he's not fighting anyone around him right now. He's got about 1.5 seconds to the driver behind him, and then a further few seconds to the other driver. So I think that he knows that he has a lot bigger gap than these drivers have, and these guys are in such big of a battle that he really doesn't want to get in the middle of them. And I give him props for that because that's really, really respectable driving. Now, I think that he should be a bit closer to the back of Alessandrini, but maybe he'll get by him here down the front straightaway. I don't know. Maybe he's just struggling a bit for pace.
For DJ Alessandrini, he's only been lapped 3 cars that will be in your GS class, and there's still 4 minutes left in this race. The pace by the MX-5s this afternoon at such a short track has been phenomenal here at Laguna Seca. You expect at a short track like this to be lapped by a lot more Mustangs at this point in time, but the MX-5s aren't that much slower compared to the Mustangs.
No, if you really think about it, I think that the MX-5s are actually faster through the corners than the Mustangs are, and then I think the Mustangs just really have it down the straightaway. So you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that these MX-5s do have a bit of a pace advantage as Hartley gets passed by the Mustang in the worst spot possible, and he's going to get held up. Alessandrini now within 0.4 of a second. Again, he's right back on the bumper of Hartley.
We'll be livid with that. The race starting to heat up here with only a couple of laps remaining here. We should squeeze in potentially laps. So we'll wait and see once that's calculated. But we should squeeze in one more fight here for the win in the MX-5s. This time, it's an encore between Hartley and Alessandrini. Position switched, and you've got a dark horse in John Allen behind.
Yeah, so you got a driver who is very quick. We know John Allen's quick. He's won so many races in the Ricmotech Sports Car Series. We know that he can be there. He's just got to get himself just that little bit closer to the front back. And the second that these guys start battling, you know that John Allen's going to be right there, and he will be ready to pounce and take advantage of everything that he possibly can.
Did John Allen take 4 tires? Because the car's just getting better and better as this race progresses. I think you'd lose a lot more time taking 4 tires. So that's something that we'd hopefully speak to him after the race. But this car looks really quick here in the closing stages. And I think with a couple of laps remaining, let's not count him out for the win.
Now, we definitely can. Now, you actually brought up a really good point there. Did he possibly take 4 tires, or has he got this car set up perfectly? Those are really the only 2 options that I can see. Either John Allen has got a setup that none of these other drivers have found to have some incredible late race pace, or he's taken 4 tires. The most probable option for me is 4 tires because, in my opinion, you're not going to get that great of a setup that you're going to be this much faster than the front 2. I mean, he's caught them up 3 seconds now. So he really may have taken 4 tires. If he has, and that is 200 IQ plays there from John Allen.
Well, track temperature currently 23 degrees Celsius as we see race control cars 54 and 64. That's Elvis Rankin and David Payton in your MX-5 class for incident limit violations. 23 degrees Celsius, that's 73 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's a very cold here at 6:45 p.m. in sim time locally. You can see it's getting darker and darker as this race progresses. The track gets colder and colder. And we believe, now where is Aero Nom? This could potentially be the final lap here for Aero Nom.
He'll take one more, I think.
I think it might actually be white flag, Tyler.
I think we'll have to see, but I think that he will have one more lap because he would have crossed the line at that point 1 minute back, and we would have still had about 40 seconds to go. So I think he missed the line by about 10 seconds. But we'll see. He's definitely a possibility that he's about to finish up as Hartley runs just a bit wide. Alessandrini is right there in his rear view mirror, and John Allen's not far back behind either. Alessandrini sent one move down the inside.
Oh, but there's Aero Nom on screen. Here's the race over. Aero Nom, brilliant race for him for round 1 of the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sports Car Series for season 15. He's winner again here from Laguna Seca. 60 minutes of brilliance from Aero Nom, but the race continues here in the MX-5s. Will it be Hartley taking the advantage? Will it be Alessandrini? How about John Allen behind in the 3rd position? It looks like these 3 will remain in this order, but with only a couple of corners to go, you don't want to butcher it here. There are important points on offer.
So Robert Hartley, he's got one more corner to go. He rounds the final corner. Now onto the front straightaway. Alessandrini has a run, but it won't be enough. Robert Hartley will win here for round number 1 of the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sports Car Series. Hartley is victorious in the MX-5s.
Wonderful stuff here. Mike Dam will be off the podium in his first race in the MX-5 for season 15. Not the result he wanted at all, but what a battle it was here. Jez Coleman will win class for your Mustangs. Comes in 7th overall. Brilliant result for Coleman, and it looks like Jacob Beasley is going to dominate the open class yet again. I would really love to see Jacob Beasley next season step up to the pro class. Season of development here, and here is the Bees Knees driver. This time with blue rims and not green rims for this season. Open class, of course, for your MX-5s, but what a race we had here, Tyler, and some post-race investigations by race control between the 89 and 16. I don't think will affect our final race results for the win. Nevertheless, though, Brilliant race here from Aero Norm in the win, for the win. Who can knock him off the top spot?
I don't know, man. I really don't know at this point. Let's get your race results up, and then I'm going to try to actually cue up a replay there for what happened between those two drivers that is now under investigation for. Take us through the race.
Aero Norm, winner for Team Bushfink yet again. And he has been brilliant in the Mustang. Only came home second by 8.8 seconds. Now, Kevin Ford, remember, was in the lead in the opening stages, but drove splendidly. He had some brilliant pace out there today, did Kevin Ford. Then you had two Meh Motorsports drivers of Tyler Shiflett and Clint Vigas. In fourth, obviously, Shiflett rounded out the podium. Down the rear end of the order, our second international driver of Laurie Koskinen ended up in 7th overall, as we saw Jez Coleman winning the open class. But all drivers bar Lucas Ford on the lead lap. Then we switched to MX-5s. Robert Hartley with a tough victory here this afternoon. He didn't make it any easy for himself after that early lap mistake there with about 2 minutes into the race. Ended up having a slowdown through the corkscrew, and that cost him that first position, dropped him down to 4th, but the recovery drive worked out perfectly there in the closing stages. Alessandrini, only 3 points lost there by not taking the win, but a win carries a lot of momentum, it carries pride, it carries confidence going into Zandvoort in a week's time. The rest of the finishing order is on screen. You can see Travis Schwenke not having the best of results that we've seen from him. He was behind Jim List and Eric Violet in the D2D esports cars, and then we cycle down through the order. Dmitry Guzva, another international driver, ended up in 24th. Now, are we claiming Canadians as well, or do we claim US and Canada and North America sort of the home for the series?
I would have to say that it's kind of the home of the series between the two countries, because really that's where we see the majority of the races being held, except for this season, actually. We have a lot of international races, so the teams will be doing a lot of traveling this season to faraway lands. The one that I'm actually most excited for the international races, I will have to add, though, is Bathurst, because we had an incredible race the last time we went there, and we're going there again, and this time the competition is stacked so hard on every one of these drivers that it's going to be so difficult to be able to walk away with a race where we have Aeronom standing by with Jonathan Swan.
Another brilliant victory, mate. Welcome along to season 15. And, mate, I mean, wasn't the best of starts for you this time around, but after that, you ended up getting past Kevin Ford, and you had quite a brilliant race there, pretty much unchallenged.
Yeah, the problem in the start was the race marshal called to go 50 miles, but because I have kilometers, I didn't know how fast I was going. So, yeah, I was looking down and there was green, but at the end it was good. We had a good battle with Kevin in the first 2 laps. He almost gave me the 4x contact, but yeah, the race was perfect. I had no incidents.
To Google and I converted it. Apparently 15 kilometers is 24.1 miles per hour. So now you know, Eero, for the rest of the season.
It's 50, not 15, but yeah.
50, sorry. Yeah, my bad. Oh, okay, now I have to convert it again. Oh. Nevertheless, though, what a brilliant way to kick off another season. And look, Kevin drove really well this race. He had a lot of good pace, better than we've ever seen Kevin Ford, really. But is it a bit demoralizing for you to lose your closest challengers of Robert Hartley and, of course, Mike Dam?
Yeah, definitely. I have to think. I think I will skip the practice completely and just come to the race, do maybe 30 minutes practice before the race.
Anyone who gets it done for you, of course, who would you like to thank from Team Bushfink and everybody else?
I like always like to thank the league organizers, the drivers, the sponsors, and you guys there in the booth.
Eero Nom, congratulations again, Eero. We'll leave you alone for another week, and we'll hopefully see you at Zandvoort in a week's time for another
thanks, guys.
event. And he, of course, there, Tyler, he drove splendidly, stood alongside another driver who had a brilliant race, 8 seconds behind, and that was Kevin Ford.
Kevin, amazing race from you. You had the race lead. momentarily there. And then what happened that caused you to actually lose the race lead? Because we were jumping back to view that amazing MX5 battle.
Yeah, no problem. I'm sure those ST cars were out there duking it out hard tonight. Yeah, we came out of turn 5 there to come up the hill to the kink, and just didn't get quite as good of a run off the turn as I wanted. Arrow got a good run on the inside, got position on me going up the hill, had a run, so I went ahead and let him go. I knew he was going to outpace me a little bit, but I was going to do everything I could to stay with him. Hung with him for a while, but yeah, he was running strong. This is a great track for us, though, one that we usually run well at here. One of my favorite courses, so it was a good night. We'll take second for sure.
Yeah, so you did an absolutely amazing job to come home in second place. We know this is definitely not an easy place to be able to come home in second and really even be able to survive the entire race. It's very easy to make a mistake and end up into a tire wall. You did an awesome job to do that. And also being one of the league organizers, doing an amazing job to get this league all sorted out before race number 1 of the season.
Well, thanks, Tyler. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's a labor of love. We've put in a lot of hours the last 3-4 weeks getting everything ready for tonight and get the season kicked off. And I want to thank all the viewers out there that are watching our season 15 kickoff this evening, and appreciate you guys being here for it. And looking forward to great coverage again this season. Yeah, tonight's tough track. Incident bonus points will be interesting here in the drivers' meeting coming up for the viewers out there. Drivers that they can keep the car completely on track, meaning if they dip a tire in the dirt here and there, they'll get what's called a 1X off track, and that'll show up on screen. And if the drivers can stay with 6 or under throughout the entire 60-minute event, they get a bonus point. And I managed to end up with 5 tonight, so was happy about that as well.
Well, awesome job from you. You come home in second place here for round number 1. There will be second place in the points as well. Who gets it done for you?
Oh, just about everybody. First off, my wife for putting up for with all the hours and hours and hours on end that I spend in the sim room here. So I do appreciate all of her support. She's been great. Comes in here, help me with getting stuff done and getting things ready for the season. So she's been a great help. And then, of course, all my family. Want to send best wishes out to my father. He's recovering from some spine surgery. So hope he's doing well this evening, and appreciate him watching, as well as the rest of my family and friends. And of course, big thanks to you guys. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you again, Kevin. Congratulations on your second place finish. We hope to see you back here again the next time out in the Ricmotech Sports Car Series.
Sounds great. We'll see you next week, guys.
Can I ask Kevin as well?
Sure.
You well, hopefully, number one, best of luck to your father on his recovery. Hope he's enjoying the coverage.
He loves it every week, guys. Go ahead.
So you earned what? You said you earned 5 bonus points. So you're limited to 12.
Yeah, you're limited to 12 bonus points per season, and per race, the drivers can get 1 bonus point by either leading a lap or getting the pole position at the start of the race, or by staying between 0 and 6 incidents. So if they go over 6 incidents, then they lose the opportunity for a bonus point at that particular event.
Yeah, no, awesome. I was going to say, considering you do a lot of running for the series and you do earn a lot of bonus points yourself, I would probably increase that just to make you earn a bit more points every season.
Yeah, well, I tell you, we've had it as high as 20, and we've had it all over the place. And over the years, we've dialed it in based on the votes from the drivers. We do allow them to provide some input each season. We send out a survey to them with some structure questions of some things that they'd like to see as far as the bonus structure and that sort of item. And so we've gotten it down to 12. Everybody seems to like that because some of the top drivers will just run away if you keep giving them points. So we've capped it out at 12 to help some of the other drivers be able to try to get into the thick of it there at the end of the season.
That is Kevin Ford, series organizer for the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sports Car Series. And thanks again, Kevin. Hopefully we'll see you next week back on the podium once again.
Thank you, buddy. I do appreciate it. All righty. We'll see you guys next Monday. Have a good week, guys.
See you, mate. And we have time now to speak to Robert Hartley, your 5th highest ranked driver on the roadside for iRacing. This is like speaking to Michael Jordan right now, Robert. This is awesome.
Not that famous, but it was a great race.
So for you though, you made it more interesting for yourself. I'm not sure if you received the slowdown in the early laps at the corkscrew, but it demoted you to 4th. minutes to get back into the lead with a final brilliant race win there in the end.
Yeah, I had a bad line through the corkscrew, and it set me up bad for the left-hander, and I ran off the track, and I tried to let DJ go, and there was just nothing I could do. I had to back out of it and fell back to fourth and just waited, and Mike and John had a few mistakes there, and I was able to reel DJ back in before the pit stops.
For you, though, switching to the MX-5 now, have you had... You're not any new to the MX-5, so I don't think you've had any trouble adjusting, have you?
No, I race it in other leagues all the time as well, so I'm still very familiar with the car. Didn't have much practice on the track tonight, though, but Laguna Seca is probably one of my favorites, so I was good to go.
I mean, you were behind DJ Alessandrini. He just never seemed to put a foot wrong. Did you notice that as well? Were you trying to, show your nose up the inside of the corner, just fake a move and see if DJ would choke under pressure? Did you notice that as well, where he was just mentally solid?
Yeah, DJ is a flawless driver. He made absolutely no mistakes. I got a good run coming out the last corner and was able to get beside him using the draft, and we were side by side for almost the whole lap. And then he would have definitely had a chance to get me back if it wasn't for them Mustangs punching a hole in the air for me.
Finally, who gets it done for you there over at Excite Racing?
Just all my teammates. Travis Schwenke's a big help, and definitely Brian Holmes and some other guys, Ashley Beard. They don't race in this league, but they help me with a lot with setups, and we work together and just try to get it all done.
So that is Robert Hartley, winner for race 1 for season 15 here of the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sports Car Series. And what a brilliant way, Tyler, there to kick off his season in a new car in the MX-5, but he's not any less familiar with the MX-5 itself.
No, definitely not. He is one of the most experienced drivers in the league and one of the most experienced drivers on all of iRacing. But right now, we're here with DJ Alessandrini's second place in the MX-5 tonight. DJ, you almost had the race win here tonight. You led for so long in that race, and then you and Robert had an absolutely incredible battle, and you ended up in second place in the end. Still not a bad result, considering we still have a long time left in the championship, but that's what you're focusing on and really going for. Then that's some nice, solid championship points tonight for you.
Honestly, I'm just going for the wins and to put on a show. I have no idea where the championship points lie or anything like that. But I had a great time racing Robert tonight. He kept it clean, and we didn't put a fender on each other going side by side. We were both giggling and having a great time. So awesome fun tonight. I normally don't do too well at Laguna Seca, but I think following these guys during practice, and I think I finally figured something out on this track, which is pretty promising.
Yeah, well, definitely promising heading into the next few rounds of the championship. We know that this is a schedule filled with a lot of different varieties and tracks. We go from tracks such as Mount Panorama to this track here and Laguna Seca and many, many others that we'll visit over the course of this championship. It's very a diverse schedule. How do you really go into planning for such a diverse schedule? Do you really just kind of have to hone in week by week? Or are you really just trying to look at something very overall and something that looks to be good all the way through?
When I practice for races, I generally don't practice for that race itself. I just try to keep fresh with different competitions and everything. In out of iRacing, just stay competing because we have enough time to practice it right before the race. There's nothing that's going to be outstandingly difficult to figure out. So yeah, I just try to keep the competition juices flowing. So when it's time to compete, you're comfortable, and it's just I've done this before. I just did this last night, those kind of things. So I just try to compete in everything I can, and I find that when you're competing all the time, there's hardly any nerves, and you just go out and perform.
Well, you definitely have done a nice job preparing, and it seems to work very, very well for you. Who gets it done for you and your team?
I'd like to thank my fiance for cheering me along. I could hear her munching on food behind me while the race is going on, and I'd like to thank Kevin for the series, Robert for the awesome racing, and John D. Allen for the laughs.
Well, thank you for that one. We'll go ahead and quickly let you go here as we now have John Allen in the booth.
Evening, pilots.
How you going, John Allen? Brilliant podium for yourself to kick off the season. I'd like to know if you took 4 tires there in your pit stop.
I did not, and yet somehow ran my fastest lap on the last lap of the race. But that was more just the big hole the Mustangs were punching for the 3 of us at the end, I think, being the benefit of the tail end of that draft train. I didn't practice a long run. I practiced a run for fuel with a couple gallons, so wasn't real happy with the set in the later runs. But mostly I was having issues shifting out of that final corner. I had 3 laps, one in particular where I had to let Mike by to try and keep us after DJ, where I went into 5th instead of 3rd coming out of the final corner, and that's just brutal.
We noticed that with how you were so quick towards the end of the race, but I don't think it was just slipstream. I think maybe your car, do you think, was set up for a lighter side, and it was really dialed in for the end of the race? And plus, don't forget that the session time was about 6:45 p.m. It was a really cold track there towards the end of the race.
Yeah, the little practice I got yesterday was done in the hotter session, and it was kind of odd because early on it was hooked up really well, it qualified well, but then I kind of burn off the tires trying to keep the tail of the draft once the front 4 got spread out a bit. And so then after the pit stop, I couldn't save any fuel because I was charging as hard as I possibly could. So I made sure I took enough. Have a reputation for sometimes going a little light on the fuel. So that wasn't an issue this time, but I didn't have tires left to get there until they actually started battling, and that gave 3 seconds back to me and put me back in the mix.
Finally, who gets it done for you from everybody else in the team? And would you like to thank Bobby Childs, an 18th birthday I heard he's turning?
Well, if we're talking birthdays, I actually have to thank my wife. Hers is today. I think Bobby's is tomorrow. So my wife, Amy, who lets me do this on her birthday, is an absolute saint. So we went to dinner and rushed home so I could play a video game.
No, that's awesome. Happy birthday to her, of course. That is John Allen, who came home on the podium. And Tyler, that is a thrilling story to hear. This is like this post-race interviews the past 10 minutes has been like an episode of 60 Minutes.
This really does seem, these post-race interviews sometimes are just as interesting as the racing, whenever we actually get to speak with the drivers behind all these different simulators. And it's so awesome to hear all the different drivers and their different feedback that they have from the race. So it's an awesome little addition that we have to each one of these races. And I'm so glad that we can get that all put in for you here at the end of the race. But this has just been an amazing season opener that we have here. We're going to try to get championship points working. Let's try and get your post-race GS points. And there we go. We do have them up for you.
Points included?
No, there is no bonus points.
Just race finishing?
That is just the race points. Bonus points have not been taken into account.
Exactly. So these are obviously provisional race results. These aren't official yet. These will be confirmed later on, of course, on the Extreme Motorsports website and other platforms wherever you follow the series. But for Aeronom, with a race win, will claim 35 points. Had pole position, so we do know he... I do know he has at least 2 bonus points at a minimum, so he's definitely on 37 for a minimum. But let's cycle through to your MX-5 points. By the way, do you have the MX-5 points? I should have confirmed.
I do have the MX-5 points. There you go.
Sorry, mate. This is Tyler and I just doing this all in the past 5 minutes. Credit to Tyler, who's been on production for the entire broadcast, doing a brilliant job behind the scenes. Robert Hartley, obviously leading the championship, exiting round 1 here from Laguna Seca. But finally, quick comments, Tyler. Next round is Zandvoort. Very slow track, very similar to Laguna Seca. Minimal overtaking spots.
I think that you just nailed the coffin on, or the head on the coffin, I think is how they say that one. But yeah, you've gotten that absolutely perfectly. It's a very, very tight circuit, very technical, and there's not a lot of passing opportunities. So we should see a lot of door-to-door racing, just like we saw here at Laguna Seca, if not even closer than what we saw here at Laguna Seca. So that should be an absolutely amazing track, and I cannot wait for that one next time out in Zandvoort.
That next race will take place on the 23rd of September. That's in a week's time. We will have 60 minutes of racing action around the classic Dutch circuit, Circuit Park Zandvoort, as it's officially known. We will race in the morning there in Sim, and we hope it's not too hot, of course. So that's why it's perfect to race in the European morning there in September. Of course, that will host round 2 of the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sports Car Series presented by Performer Elite Texas Graphics. All coverage will be on Apex Racing TV, streamed live on our associated platforms. Thanks to everybody who joined us for today's coverage. Hope you enjoyed it as usual. From myself, Jonathan Simon, from Tyler Maxon alongside me, and our entire Apex Racing TV crew, this has been an Apex Racing TV presentation. Our winners today, Aeronom and Robert Hartley in both your GS and ST classes. We say so long from Laguna Seca.